All right, good morning, guys. Let's review some tracks. So we're going to finish up all the outstanding tracks that I didn't get to in the previous videos. So thank you guys so much for your patience. I know about 25 of you today have been waiting about a month to get this review. So I apologize for the delay, but hopefully you can understand. A lot of tracks coming my way, and to get through all of them, I didn't want to just rush through them and give everybody just like a quick little, 1 minute listen and then move on to the next. I really wanted to make sure each of you got some substantial notes and some feedback for what I think about your music and what I think you can improve upon, or what I love about your tracks. I'd say so far about 5 to 10% of the tracks that I've received. So 5 to 10 tracks are like ready to go. I would say like 5 to 10 of you guys probably have tracks right now that if you can just maybe complete out a 6 or a 12 12 track album, you can actually go shop that thing out there and start getting some contracts with some libraries. The rest of you guys probably could use a little bit of work. There are various different things obviously that I was talking about. There was mixing issues, there's composing issues, samples was a big one, and that's always a big one. Using the right samples, making sure that you're making your tracks sound modern edge and cutting edge, and not like you just got the first template you could find out of your synth preset or something like that. Got to make sure you take the time to get good samples and you're working with good samples. That's why I always recommend to everybody splice.com. It's because I use it every single day. They don't pay me to recommend them. There's no affiliate program here. I'm just telling you guys, $8 a month and you can get 100 samples every month. And if you need to get good drums, good sounds, good snares, good kicks, good anything, they got synth plugins, they've got samples, they've got loops, they've got vocal stuff. Whenever I need something, it's just Splice is always up on my window and I always go to it. So I definitely recommend you guys do that. Apart from that, there was a lot of repetition in a lot of tracks, so that's always an issue, to make sure that you're not just kind of getting stuck in the sort of copy paste operation of music producing. But yeah, so I hope you guys are enjoying the feedback. I've gotten a lot of good emails back from some of you that I've reviewed your tracks, and you've said that you really enjoyed the notes that I was giving you, and that it really helped you kind of see where you need to start making some changes. I know that when I was just getting started producing music, it was so hard to get a hold of somebody who had trained ears, who knew what they were talking about, to listen to my music, to kind of give me some notes on what was working about it, what wasn't working about it. I know that when you're kind of new to producing music, or if you're just not new to producing music, but new to try to getting into the TV film world, you might have a lot of questions about like, well, is this going to work? Is that going to work? Is this good enough? Is that good enough? And so I hope that this is helping you guys sort of get more on track wherever you are in your career. If you're brand new to it, at least getting closer to making sure that your tracks are licensable. If you have licensable tracks, maybe I can help you guys get a little bit closer to getting those contracts secured, and doing this full time, and being persistent for months and months and years down the road. So that's what all of this is about. So without further ado, let's get started. Wade, you are lucky number 1. You got a link to your track right here. Let's see what you got. And I'm not seeing login. See, this is a Spotify thing, man. I'm not going to log in to do anything. I need a direct link. Sorry, man. Can't review that one. Stacy, okay. You're the owner of Semantics record label, and your hip hop artist is your husband. Stage name, Amen BK. Cool. We just submitted this music for sync licensing. Really enjoy the videos. You're learning steadily. Great. Oh, you like the green juice? Yeah. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that one. Yeah, taking care of your health, especially when you're sitting down making music all day long. You got to take care of your health. Exercising, eating right, and I do those sort of veggie green drinks pretty consistently, and that really helps get the nutrients that I need to make sure that I have lots of energy for my music creation. All right, let's take a listen to what you got.
We're taking that one back to the old school, old school funky style. Yeah. And it goes like this. Today is the day to do it right. Funk it up, maximum delight. Shades on, full on Adidas. Golden necklace with a smile of a genius. Warm up, keep it classy, classic. Before it turns to tragic gymnastics. Wait, no flashy lights close up, cause that's messed up. Hey DJ, make that sad, thrilling. Burn it up for the...
All right, so here's my thoughts. I like the rhythm. I like the funky feel of this. A lot of good stuff working with this. I think some of the samples need to be updated. It feels a little bit kind of karaoke track sounding. So I think if you guys could just modernize and update some of these samples you're using. Drums aren't that bad, but I think they do need to slam a little bit harder. This kind of sounds like a mix that would have been made maybe in the 80s, you know, and so the 80s mixes were a little bit more timid. They weren't as intense and as loud. For better for worse, I know that some people preferred mixes back then with a little bit more dynamics, but these days tracks are loud. They are very loud and they're slamming hard. Now, the sound that he has obviously is a bit of a throwback sound. You know, this is not the sound you're going to hear on the radio today. But I think with some modern production sounds in your music, this is very licensable. This has a lot of fun to it. And especially if this had more of if you can imagine maybe putting together a track that would sound like it would fit on today's modern pop charts or dance charts, and then throwing his vocals on top of that with this kind of throwback feel. If you guys aren't familiar with glitch step, definitely take a look into a genre called glitch step. Really, really cool sound. It's kind of got this swung thing, but it's got this glitchy, almost dubstep mix to it. So it's definitely in the same lane, in the same like rhythm space as what you guys are doing here, but it's modern. It's what's happening right now. It's what like supervisors, editors would probably be more interested in licensing. This kind of a sound like would work if you had like a throwback TV show, or you had like a throwback scene where we're doing a flashback to something that happened in the past, and this is the kind of music that was going on back then. There's going to be a couple of opportunities for that, but you can guess not tons and tons of opportunities for something like that. So that's why it's important for, no matter how old you are, no matter how young you are, make sure that your tracks sound like they're on today's radio stations, which I don't know, what is a radio station anymore, but you guys know what I mean, on the charts, right? Whatever's charting right now, that's what you guys want to go stronger for.
The B-boys in the building, stylish footwork, form ciphers. Throw away those lame whack biters. Give me love, give me funk. We'll show you moves of a Shaolin monk. Like a loco, rocking that funky air guitar. I'm the neighborhood superstar. Ignite for the night. It's getting tight, keep your style in sight. Get down, no doubt. Dust it off, bust it out. Ignite for the night. It's getting tight, keep your style in sight.
A little bit of compression going on with your master mix. It's a little bit hot, so I can feel this kind of pumping and a little bit of clipping going on. So you definitely got to double check that. But yeah, that's as far as I can really tell you guys as far as what I would do to be a little bit more competitive in this business. Is just upgrade and update your music. Vocals can stay just as they are, but you need to get a sound that's a little bit more modern. And I think you can do some really cool stuff with that, because right there, I mean, there's so many party scenes and opportunities for something like that to be placed. So I can definitely see you guys getting a lot of great stuff going on with that kind of a sound. It just made me feel good just listening to that. It put me in the mood for just having a good time. So I know that's exactly what it would do also for a library or a supervisor. All right. Narek, I think I pronounced it right, hopefully. Would like to thank me for the informative channel. You're welcome. And all the time and effort putting in the channel to hear. You got it. Hearing about license opportunities to your channel, hoping actively. Cool. I love hearing about this, guys. Like when you guys tell me, wait, before that, your primary interest is orchestral. How much licensing opportunities are there for that kind of music? Cool. Well, let's see what you got here first, and I can kind of tell you what I think where your chances are with this. But I love hearing when you guys say you didn't really know about licensing until you found my channel. That really is cool, because that's one of the first things that I'm trying to do out here, is why I put out videos every week, because I'm trying to sort of spread the gospel of this industry and let other people know about it. You know, I don't really care if you sign up for my syndicate or you sign up for any of my products or get the music directory. I really don't care if you get any of that stuff or you just come and watch my free videos. As long as at the end of the day, you're making steps forward in your career, you know, wherever it is, wherever you are, I'm feeling rewarded by that. So you guys, please don't be shy. And like if you guys get a contract with a library, if you get your first placement, or if you get this or get that, please let me know. Like I would like to know that maybe I helped you guys out in some way, even if it's just motivating you. Maybe you knew all this stuff already. You kind of knew what was going on in this business. But if just having this kind of content online on a weekly basis just helped you stay motivated, and it's like, you know what, I got to keep going. I got to keep going. Let me know. Like I want us to make sure that this is sort of a back and forth, and it's not always just I'm pumping out information and I'm putting out these videos. and then I don't hear from you guys, right? So you guys know how to get a hold of me. You can email me. You can obviously comment on my videos. I'll try to be as responsive as I possibly can. Obviously, I'm fairly stretched thin with my time, but I do try to get back to your guys' comments as much as possible. And thank you to those of you that are commenting and liking and sharing my videos. I really, really appreciate it. None of this stuff... it wouldn't be nearly as rewarding for me to do this unless you guys were giving me the sort of feedback and the positive feedback that you were. And I'm going to try to get better. There's a lot of things I can do better. I know that. So, you know, I'm kind of new to YouTube in a way. I've been doing this for about a year now. And so there's going to be, you know, things are going to get better as you go on, just like everything in life. You guys remember when you first got on a bike, you sucked at it, right? You fell over, you didn't know what you were doing, you had no balance, and then you got on it more and more, and then you sucked less and less until you just didn't suck at all. So I'm probably in my beginning of losing the sucking phase right now on YouTube. I have a long way to go, but I was looking back the other day on some of my earlier videos, and I was like, ugh, cringe, just cringe some of the stuff that I was doing, and the way that I was talking. I just, you know, I was trying to find my voice, and I realized like I didn't have to find my voice. Just be yourself, you know, and that's typically you can't lose with that. And so that's what I'm kind of learning right now and figuring out as we go forward. But no more talking. I'm gonna listen now. All right, Narek, I'm going to call you that unless, I mean, I can't have you correct me right now, so you're going to be Narek for now. Sorry, man, if that's wrong. But so samples sound great. You obviously have a knack for composing and putting this stuff together, so that's all working for you. I would say you probably need to spend a little bit more time with your automation, or at least trying to customize more how these strings are breathing together. Maybe you can group them all together and kind of automate a little bit more, because it felt like they just were kind of played on a keyboard. I know they were played on a keyboard. Everybody plays them on a keyboard. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I'm saying when you do play certain libraries, the strings are very flat. Like they started this volume and they ended that volume, and then you go to the next note and it's still the same level. But if you go to a live string or orchestra and you listen to how they're playing, and you even watch the conductor, there's mountains and valleys, right? There's breathing that goes on. There's quiet and then loud and then quiet. So you need to get a little bit more nuanced in how you're placing your strings in your track. Because the samples sound fine, your composition sounds great. I don't think there's any complaints there. But I just didn't feel like these were as lifelike as they possibly could be. So I think that's really a small fix you can do, you know, going in through and just automating your volume. Or if your library has, like a lot of my libraries I use with Contact 5, with my modulation wheel, I can actually get them to go from quiet, from piano up to forte. So I can actually have them breathe, you know, more naturally that way. So what I'll do is I'll actually play the string section, or at least program it however I need to. And then I'll go back, re-record, and then do all my modifications, and then do all my sort of automation. And then I kind of want to breathe with the music and make sure it feels good. I like to just perform it live. Some people like to draw it in. I like to just feel it, and so I can perform it live, and it's always better. And if it doesn't work, undo, do it again. And anyways, that's what I do. I also hear a little bit of over compression on your mix. It feels very squashed right now, so you want to just ease up on those compression settings on your master bus. This is awesome, man. I like this a lot. So yeah, as far as your chances of doing licensing with this kind of music, yes, there are libraries that love this stuff. There are definitely catalogs that need this orchestral style, this kind of film style. And definitely, I'm starting to think now that maybe before this year or maybe before the last couple of years, I would have said this is kind of a tricky style because if you're trying to become a film composer, and it sounds like that might be where you're headed here, most films obviously are going to hire a composer, and either that composer will do all the music, or that composer typically will have a team of composers behind him, and they'll knock out all the music for it. So your best bet, if you wanted to go down that path, would be to basically go try to network more with directors, producers of films, that kind of thing, and then also maybe even go work for a Hollywood composer. See if you can get an internship or work with one of them. You're probably not going to be paid that well, and you're not going to probably get any credit at all, but you'll learn a lot. You definitely will learn a lot for sure. So that would be one way that I think you might want to go. But what I'm starting to notice now is, if you guys haven't been noticing, Hollywood's not doing so well. People are not going to the movies anymore as much as they used to. The movies that are coming out are just not attracting people. You know, they kind of are just recycling a lot of these old, tried and true blockbuster formulas, and I think they're just kind of wearing thin on people. They're like, okay, I've seen 18 Spider-Mans. How many reboots of this thing are we going to do, right? So the originality and all the excitement from Hollywood seems to be kind of crumbling right now. So what that's doing is that's going to open up the door for, like right now, there is a massive need for independent entertainment right now. Obviously, as you guys know, if you're not subscribed to Netflix or Hulu, those are blowing up. People want to they want to be entertained. They want to get lost in something. They want to do that, but they're not finding that going to the movie is the only way to do that anymore. And so that's why people are staying home. They're on their smartphones. They're looking for other things. And the first sort of like independent media that can create something like a Hollywood where it becomes an experience. It's not just like, okay, this is a show I like and I can watch it from home, but you literally have to go somewhere to experience this thing. And I think the obvious answer to that is going to be virtual reality. If you guys aren't paying attention, you know, Oculus Rift, one of the major products out there that does virtual reality, they are now releasing a 200 version of their headset next year, where you don't have to have a computer connected to it. It's its own computer. And you're going to be able to experience things with a $200 gadget that'll probably put you in the experience, in the movie. So this is coming faster than you probably realize is coming. And because of that, because now we're going to this sort of like decentralized, independent everything, where there's independent music, independent movies, independent video game creators, right? Everything's becoming independent. There's no longer these large, major conglomerate corporations that are controlling our entertainment and how we get our information. So you would be in a good place to be able to serve your music to, let's say, somebody putting together a virtual reality program or a movie or an experience or something like that. And that stuff, so we're just like right on the cutting edge of all that stuff. I'm still learning about it. So, you know, the more that I learn, obviously I'll share with you guys and let you guys know what I think. But we are sort of transitioning into a different world right now where it's not going to be always the traditional, you know, you got to go get your music on TV in order to get licensing. That's not going to be the case in a couple of years here. There's going to be many other places you can get your music placed in, and you can make a decent living doing that. So I want to be on the cutting edge of that stuff. That's why I think it's really important to embrace technology, to educate yourself about technology, and not be frightened by it, and not think that it's always threatening you and it's always going to just take you down. But just also recognize that, you know, technology has destroyed probably every industry that's ever existed for mankind, right? Like if you go back 100 years, almost all industries that were existing back then have been completely destroyed, but somehow we didn't all find ourselves homeless in the future, right? We all found a way to, or at least a lot of us, obviously the vast majority of people, new industries were born, new interesting things were created, and created new jobs, new services that we all started in participating in. This thing that I'm doing right now, it did not exist even, I would say, 10 years ago, right? This is a brand new thing. Being able to share my information online, you know, put out this YouTube channel, you know, obviously create music from home with software, send it off to music supervisors and music libraries. This is a brand new, completely modern phenomenon. Thank you to technology. Okay, so I'm a big fan. Technology's made my life a lot better. If it's not making your life better, if you feel like it's just making your life worse, it might not be the technology. It might actually be your mindset. It might be the way that you're perceiving it, and you're not taking advantage of what it's actually can offer you. So, anyways, my optimism rant is over. We're only like 2 tracks in. I'm already ranting. No more. So, all right, man, you're out of Vegas. I hope you weren't affected by the horrible shooting last week, 2 weeks ago. All right, for a little turnaround like that, make sure you use some transitional effects. Give us a swoosh up, give us a crash, give us an impact, stutter something in between there. You probably don't want to leave something completely blank for that long without any sort of a rise back into it. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, just like for like a quarter note, that quick. Just give us a little bit of an introduction back into your beat. There's a little bit of a timing issue with your drums, so you might want to take a look at that at the end of your loops here, or whatever your progression is that you're doing, maybe your MIDI notes. Now, this style is very similar to the throwback funk style that I was talking about before. This is a very 80s dance sound, right? Doesn't mean it can't be used, but you definitely got to update how it's produced, okay? So I would not use these drums at all. These drums definitely feel way too 80s. And your overall mix, as you can see, you're clipping quite a bit, and it's way too compressed, so the whole mix is just, it's way too squeezed. And you got to like loosen up on those settings a little bit, turn down things, let your track breathe a little bit more, and have a little bit more of an impact with your drums. But I would not go with these kind of drums. I'd probably go with a little bit more modern dubstep, EDM style drums, the stuff that you would hear on today's charts. But you can use this kind of throwback thing, which is kind of cool, because this kind of, like, if you put an album together of these sort of retro, what was the name of the club in Terminator? Club Noir, something like that, Techno Noir, I forgot what it's called, but that kind of vibe of like, you know, this is kind of like a futuristic, from the 80s though, an 80s style futuristic techno thing. I could definitely see that being marketed to a music library and finding some decent use, but it's got to be produced with modern elements again. So this has got like a throwback style, and it's produced in a throwback manner. So what you want to do is keep the throwback style, but produce it with modern tools, so that you have this cool sort of like, oh, remember when this sound was hot, but this is what that sound, it's almost like this is what you want to think about. This is what that sound would sound like if it were on the radio today. This is what the 80s pop, the 80s dance, techno stuff would sound like if Justin Bieber had a track, or, you know, The Weeknd had a track like that or something. So that's the kind of exercise you want to go through, and make sure that you modernize what you're doing. A little bit repetitive. We're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So you want to make sure that you kind of change up your melodies, change up your chord progressions, change up your bass progression here a little bit. You don't want to get stuck in this copy paste operation. It's just going to be too much. And again, you know, an editor can obviously copy and paste anything they need longer of. So you don't need to give them all that repetition. They can create that for themselves through your track. And hey, the more they repeat your track on their show, the more money you make. So that's great for you. But for now, you just want to make sure that you provide a bunch of different options and you don't get too repetitive. All right, La Roca music. Here's one of your attention cues, Dark Aim. Gotcha. Direct stream, cool. You're from Sweden, right on, man. I've got some heritage from Sweden for sure. I like the growl you have. I like the drums. that kind of stuttering synth, dun dun dun. That's the only thing that I'm not really feeling. I think that needs to be it could be softer. Maybe you cut out a lot of the high EQ from it. Maybe throw a little bit more reverb behind it. It's feel like it's punching through a little bit too much, and it's not quite sitting with the rest of the track. Or maybe the sound itself isn't really working so well. Maybe I want something more of like a droplet sound, or something that kind of feels like it's in a cavern somewhere or in the closet, kind of a little bit more subdued than that. That one's punching through a little bit. But, this does also have this kind of computer techie sort of futuristic vibe to it. So this could work for something like that. It kind of is not pulling me in. Even though I know this is a background cue and it's not supposed to grab my attention, it's still not quite delivering probably the strongest, most clear emotion that I could possibly get. Because right now I think it's delivering this sort of unease, tension. Something is being brewed, or something is being there's a conspiracy brewing, or something like that. Or I don't know, just with that low growl, that one really speaks to me a little bit. So that's what I'm kind of getting here. But I think it could be even a little bit clearer emotionally. Like that sound is just very, and it's too in your face. So I would do things that are a little bit more subdued, and that could sit in the background a little bit more. And then just as a general rule, a lot of this stuff seems to be repeating a little bit too much. Like that big distracting sound that probably shouldn't be that distracting and loud. And I kind of feel a little bit of, we're kind of a little stuck on a treadmill here. So maybe just adding more elements sooner would help get off of that thing, and try some other thing. Or again, you can always just change. You go down a half step or go down a full step, or try to find something for maybe a 4-bar thing where it's kind of like a relief from the typical ongoing like loop that we're on here. It'll help provide a little bit of variation in your track for sure. So, but I'm glad you're thinking about doing some background music. That's cool. A lot of opportunities for that stuff. You got to talk to your libraries that you're submitting to, make sure that they have a use for that. Don't just do it thinking that they need it. You make sure that they do need it. And if they do, go for it. All right, Darren. Can I really walk away? Here we go. So we got a few issues here. Samples is the first thing. Okay, so these samples that you're using, I would first and foremost ditch them. Pretty much every single one of them. There was really nothing in this track that was, sounding catchy enough. Like it wasn't really pulling me in. It kind of was all going. It was repulsing me. It was like, nah, that's kind of stuff that just sounds like stuff that you can just pull off of any synthesizer or whatever. So you're not going to do yourself any favors by using just the easiest sounds you can come across, or the fastest ones, I should say. Also, musically, we're not really in the same page. I don't think we're in the same key for a lot of this stuff. I don't think we're kind of like putting the same melodic movement together between all of your instruments. It seems like it's like this instrument's doing its own thing, this one's singing its own part, that one's doing this, and so I feel like everything is just kind of scattered, right? So if you're new to producing, basically what I always say is you want to think about your track as a play, okay? So you don't want to have 10 lead actors all be talking to the audience at once, because then if you're the audience member, you're like, well, who's talking? Who should I listen? All right, that's what's going on in your track. There are probably 5 different lead actors all giving a monologue, and they're talking over each other, and there's just no focus. Typically, what you'll find if you watch a play or anything like a Broadway play or something like that, there'll be either just a monologue with one lead. So you got to focus on one lead that you want to have as your lead. So you can use a bell or a synth or whatever, and that's going to be the lead. That's going to be the thing that's probably up in the mid-range, high range, that's playing this melody that you want to really be the focus of your song. Okay, so that's your monologue. That's your that's your main actor. That's your lead actor. Everything else should be all the supporting roles. Okay, so if there's one person on stage talking, but there's a crowd of people providing atmosphere, Are they interrupting that person? No, they're staying very clear. In fact, the spotlight's only on that person, and they're just there to support that role. So they're providing context for whatever that person is saying, okay? So your drums need to support it, your bass needs to support it. Maybe you have some chords, some piano chords, they're supporting it, or other synths. And all of those things are going to be supporting the lead. Now, if you have two leads, typically what you're going to want to do is do a call and response thing where you have one lead coming in and then another one comes and responds, okay? So you don't want to have them playing at the same time, though. You're going to really just, confuse your audience and confuse your listener. This one, you got to go back to the drawing board on this one. This one needs a lot of work. And I think first start with your samples. If you can just start with better sounding samples, you'll already be in a better place, okay? These samples, no matter, even if you fixed all of these issues I'm talking about melodically, it would still be a big problem because these samples just aren't doing it. So start with the samples, try updating your sounds, listen to some other producers and what they're using, and try to do that. And then after that, really start thinking about your track as a play and not just as, all right, let me just throw this in here, let me just throw this in. You're kind of like, right now, it's almost like you're approaching it like it's a stew and you're just throwing in spices, spice, That's not going to do you any favors, actually. It's probably the wrong way to compose music. The better way is to think about it in terms of, what is the focus here? What is the primary driver? And then either you can start with that, or if you want to start with the chords or the beat or whatever, you build everything always supporting what's happening in your lead. So hopefully that helps, man. Massiage. Maybe I got that right. It's always a challenge. Love it, man. It's great. Boost it up a little bit. It probably could be 3 dB a little louder. I had to crank up my speakers a little bit just to even hear what was going on there. So that's normally when I know, you obviously you can go a little bit more. So you could probably be a little bit more generous with your output on your master bus. Maybe you want to throw a little bit of a transitional effect here to kind of rise us up, because now it feels like we're in a sort of a B section that's a little bit more subdued, but I kind of want to hear a little bit more of a rise and then bring us back down, It's too bad, man, because like this sound is exactly what I was looking for. It was a couple months back. We were doing some backstory cues, and I wanted both tension and like optimism and uplifting, and then also depression. I wanted a sad sound too, but the optimism was one of the ones. It was one of the harder ones for a lot of the members to knock out, but we got a couple of really great ones. But this sounds very hopeful, very optimistic, very cinematic. This could also be corporate. This could be advertising. There's a lot of stuff this could work for, man. This is really great. This is really interesting, man. The only thing that might be bothering me and might get in the way for you with the licensing business is you have this minor note that comes in, bum, 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 and it doesn't quite fit that optimistic, uplifting major feel that you had for all the rest of this part. And typically, I mean, not across the board. I mean, this could be a great indie film. More kind of more of an experimental placement. You could definitely get with that. But most placements you'll find is they want one consistent emotion going through the entire track. And so when you have that kind of minor note in there, it kind of goes, whoa, now we're sort of maybe in the Middle East, or we're like kind of not sure what's going on here. You introduce like a whole different kind of spice into this song, into this sound. And then we go back into the optimism. So just, that's my 2 cents on it. If you were submitting this to me, what I would say is like, probably take out that minor note that you threw in there and try to keep it all just uplifting and up and inspiring and just angelic and just lift us up, because that's really the vibe that seems to be delivered throughout the rest of the track. And especially since this is like the end, the big finale of the track, you want to keep it in that arena, so that they don't go, oh, we like it, but it's a little, that one part just, it's a little weird. And they won't really know why it's a little bit weird, but they'll know that it doesn't quite fit the emotion that they want. So it's kind of a rule across the board with the licensing business, is that whatever emotion you want to deliver that same emotion, but deliver it in different ways, right? Deliver the subdued part of it, deliver the rise of it, deliver the big, huge chorus part of it. You want to deliver all different levels of it, but it should all still be. And this one is just complete, like, optimism, feeling good, solving a long puzzle or something, or figuring out something you've wanted to learn for a long time, discovery, right? I have a little bit of that going on in this too. So I would just stay in that lane and not really drift too much. Even though it's really interesting musically, I won't take that away from you at all. It's a really interesting musical piece. But again, this is about a service industry. This is about serving the needs of somebody who can put your music into TV shows and all that good stuff. So, all right. Sold music. Your name's Jaffer or Jafer. I've been producing several years, only seriously until a few months ago. You use Fruity Loop Studio, Contact Select, East West Libraries. Cool. Right on, man. Glad to have you send some tracks. Let's see what you got. I like this beat. It's getting me in the mood, but man, it's too long. Probably only needed one bar of this. We don't really need 20 seconds long of just a drum beat with these kind of pads playing behind it. Now, I don't know if you can hear, that guitar is out of tune, or it wasn't performed in tune. So I would go and re-record that, man. That one definitely, right off the bat, I was like, ooh, a little off. And if my ears can hear it, and I'm obviously a guitar player, so I probably listen to those things a little bit more than most people, pretty much a supervisor and editor, they're going to hear that too and go, They might not be musicians, right? It doesn't mean they're going to go like, hey, this guitar's out of tune. But if they hear something that just doesn't feel right, they typically pass. They're just going to go, yeah, okay, let's find something else. And you don't want to have that happen to you, because this sounds like a great track so far, but you got, you're starting out your music with an out of tune lead. It's kind of like having an awkward introduction to somebody. First impressions do really matter, especially in this business, big time. Heavy, man. I like this. This is a really cool vibe. Remember, mid-tempo, up-tempo tracks typically get more placements than the slower ones, so just be aware of that. I do hear this more as like, if you wanted to start throwing some orchestral stuff on here, this could be a cool hybrid track. Like, I really do hear this as more of like a cinematic, almost trailer piece that's really just a really big, epic kind of war track. And I think I want to hear horns, I want to hear strings, I want to hear some other stuff going on. As just a rock tune, it's not quite delivering to me probably the most that it possibly can. Also, with your hi-hat pattern, that just sort of just the offbeat things, it's kind of making the track sit a little bit too heavy, like it's stuck in some swamp or something like that. So I would probably go at least to eighth notes, and maybe even do a couple of 16th notes, something like that. Little ghost notes, if you're not familiar with drum programming, ghost notes are when you just have these little tiny hits that you can almost barely hear. They're very, very quiet, but they add such a nice little like finesse to your drums, and it makes it feel a lot more interesting and dynamic. So having little tiny 16th notes that are barely audible here and there in your drum patterns can give it that sort of real cool, and it'll help your track move a little bit faster. Also, I'd throw a lot more percussion in this. I think there needs to be probably a shaker, maybe a tambourine hitting on the snare hits as well. You could even do some tribal drums or something. Like there needs to be a lot more going on in this track. It feels a little too stripped down. And that little kind of sound effect, R2D2 sound effect, I probably wouldn't throw that in there. It feels like it was out of place and really distracting out of the element for this. Like, you know, swooshes or maybe some white noise risers, string risers would work great for this. But anything electronic and kind of digital, it doesn't seem like it would work that well with this kind of a track, because this is a very, you know, like again, it's just very cinematic. And so I don't hear a lot of electronic elements being used in this kind of a thing. So anyways, man, that's my 2 cents on that. But I really dig the vibe of it. I'm a rock person. I love metal. I love rock. So every time I hear it and I love it, I'm just like, keep doing it, because I don't know. I think the world needs more rock for sure. Fred, song is called Beverly Hills. You learned so much. Right on. Right on, man. Yeah, I do. I do want to help you guys. Brutally honest assessment of your skills is necessary. All right, man. I'm not going to hold back. And I don't hold back on any of you guys. I mean, I try to be as nice. I try to be nice. And, it's not about being nice. What it is really about is being clear and being instructive. That's really more important. If what I say doesn't get through to you because I say it in a way that you just kind of, your defenses go up and you're like, ugh, that was weird. I don't like hearing it that way or whatever. Then I haven't done my job, right? Then that was just kind of a waste of time for me and for you, because you're not going to take it. I've run into other educators in various fields where, like, you send something and they go, please tell me that's not what you were going to send to libraries, or please tell me that's not a way to educate, to completely just destroy people and make fun of them or call them out or something like that. That doesn't help anybody, right? So even if I feel that like your track just needs a lot of work and it's really far away, I want to give you specific things you can do to get it there. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say, oh, this is great. Yeah, go ahead and send it off. You're awesome. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and tell you that you're better than you really are. But I want to be as clear about what you can do, like actionable steps. Again, I'm a results guy. It's not just about fluff and feeling good and all that kind of stuff. Like, I want to see people actually doing better with their music, actually getting placements, making their tracks sound better, making the improvements they need to their mixing or mastering. So I try to just focus on specific things you can actually do. And it's really on you, obviously, if you're going to take that knowledge and go with it. But I want to be as clear and as direct. And I think most people who follow me, most of you guys that are watching this right now, like, you have that mindset. You're willing to take constructive criticism. And obviously, I have a responsibility to make sure that comes across in a way that you can hear, and it's not going to be in a completely like just derogatory way that just pisses you off or whatever. So I try not to do that. So without further ado, let's get started on this one. Right off the bat, man, we've got some clipping going on right here. I heard this cook. So you don't want to start off your track with some clipping and distortion. Anybody who hears this is going to probably pass on that, because that's already just blowing out their speakers and not sounding like it's ready to go. So just, that's one thing to fix right off the bat. Yeah, there's a lot of clipping going on here, man, especially when you get these kicks going in here. Just so you guys know, the low frequencies are the first things that start to blow out in your mixes. So a lot of you guys, if I hear clipping, it's because you probably have a kick and a bass or a bass synth or something, and you haven't really scooped out some of those low frequencies and really started to hone that in a little bit. And so your whole mix is, it's doing this in the end. So you got to get good at that. You got to clean up your low end. You got to clean up your basses, clean up your kicks. You don't want to be completely smashing your mix through the roof, because then you're going to get sounds like this. It just sounds like really distorted. So that's that. Also, the samples, yeah, they're not really pulling me in here. Let me just give you some more clear notes on that. Yeah, because this is kind of an interesting track that I don't know where I would put it. It's kind of corporate, but not really, and it's kind of pop, but not really. You're kind of in between a few different styles right here. So, and which is sometimes an asset, sometimes a liability, because it can be a liability in that nobody really knows where to market you to, right? They don't know like what kind of a TV show needs this. Like, a TV show will typically tell you, we want uplifting corporate music, or we want kind of tropical pop songs for this TV show we're working on. They're gonna say a specific genre, a specific sound that they want. And this one, I'm not sure where I'd put this one. It's probably more in the pop lane, but with the samples that you're using here, it sounds more corporate. So I think you probably need to make up your mind in terms of which one you want to go to. Do you want to go more in the corporate world, which is probably going to use a little bit more electronics, cinematic, orchestral elements, or do you want to go in more in the pop world, which is obviously, I mean, a lot of stuff works in the pop world, but the samples that you're using right now, I just don't quite get a clear feeling on where this is going. It's got a cool like energy to it, like for sure. It's upbeat, you know, it's grooving and all that kind of stuff. But where I would market it, where I would categorize this, like I always think about like if I were a music library, where would I be able to fit something like this? And I'm like thinking like I don't know where I would put something like this. It could be in a sort of pop corporate hybrid thing. That's kind of where I would see it. But I think there needs to be obviously fixing the mix. There's too much distortion in this mix for sure. That's not going to pass. And even a lot of the samples, I think I would try some other things. That one's really abrasive, man. That one really got to my ears. And I know sometimes I might have actually more sensitive ears than most, but oof, that one really, that like whining up pitch thing that came up, it really started to bother my ears. I think you need to make sure you find some really annoying frequencies in the high register of those and scoop them out a little bit, man, because those are a little bit too aggressive. And that was probably too loud for that buildup. That was a little bit out of balance for what was going on underneath. So, yeah, I think, I think you should first, before I think you should decide where you want to go. Like, do you want this to be, and did you categorize this? I don't see I don't see a category. So, I would try to decide where you want to do, this is called radio music bed. So, okay, TV ads, that kind of thing. So you're probably leaning more towards the corporate world. So if you're leaning more towards the corporate world, cool. But I would still try to get something that sounds, I think it's like that plucking sound. That's the one thing that's really bothering me. And your bass thing, that's not really doing it for me. So a lot of your just instruments are not working out so well. And because your drums are clipping right now, it's also kind of distorting and getting in the way of the clarity of your mix. So it's also kind of hard for me to tell you exactly what I would do differently. But I would just try with some different samples. This one's just kind of not really delivering what I would want it to deliver. For the corporate world, if that's where you're going to try to go. So hopefully those help for you, man. Sorry, I'm not always the most, clear, but I try to do what I can. So right on, Mark. You've been watching for a while. Wanted to say hi. Cool. All right. Yeah, it's kind of a little too long for me to read right now, man, but I'll definitely listen to your track. I can read that email later. Oh, track was not found. What's going on, Mark? I don't know, man. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I need a direct link. You followed all the other directions, and then this is now track is gone. I don't know what happened, buddy. Sorry. G Hood, listen to Devil's Sidekick. All right.
I shine like Spike Lee, stopping my feelings. I don't rap check Nikes, but I handle business like a wolf on Wall Street. Put your hands up if you're with me. Put them up high, rep your city. 508's where I lay, the 401's in me. Where the nights are long and the goons ain't friendly. So drop your dough at home and your jewelry. Cause your ass get robbed quick. Left in the alley, rats hell bent on cheddar cheese. Pack your heat, thug your heart, suck your body. It's not a job, it's a fucked up hobby.
Digging this, man, but just be careful. I heard some discrepancies between your vocal doubles that you did there. I heard a little like slap back because I don't think you were exactly on with your other vocals. So just take a look at that and make sure that's all super tight. Remember, TV film, yes, you can do vocals. There can be full tracks, but your vocals better be clean, super well produced. And up until that point, they were sounding pretty good.
It's not a job, it's a fucked up hobby. And the ones I took are the ones that haunt me. I don't care though, I laugh till it's funny. If you talk to me, you better talk about the money.
Am I a winner or a sinner? It's hard to tell. On a stairway to heaven, I tripped and fell. Now my skin burns in the depths of hell. myself. Am I a winner or a sinner? It's hard to tell. On a stairway to heaven, I tripped and fell. Now my skin burns in the depths of hell.
The only criticism I'd have is I'm kind of not really hearing every single word. And if you're gonna do TV film licensing with lyrics, they don't just want vocals on there just to fill up space. Like, the vocals need to be telling a story, right? They need to be conveying an emotion or helping to bring out an emotion of a particular scene or something. So really make sure it can either be with how you're rapping on your tracks. You need to enunciate more, right? Open up your mouth, make sure that you can really hear every word, every syllable. A lot of times it might feel unnatural, but you have to over enunciate while you're recording. And then when you play it back, you realize, yeah, it actually sounds good. But maybe while you're saying it, it feels weird to over enunciate every single word. But when you play it back, you're like, actually, no, that's better because I can actually hear every single word and syllable that we're saying. Also, just adding a little bit more high-end frequency to your vocal tracks can definitely do that as well, because a lot of the clarity of the little like noises and shapes that our mouths and tongues and teeth make come in those really high frequencies. So just boosting up those a little bit and compressing a little bit more, you can actually get your vocals to really be a little bit clearer, because I'm catching phrases here and there, but I'm not really like locked into your story here because I'm not hearing every single word. And it could be that the vocals need to be bumped up a little bit. But musically, this has got a great sound. I'm digging it so far, man. Really no notes musically. Maybe you want to do something more to try to change up things here and there, because this same chord, what is it, the string section you have, dun, 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 dun. You know, maybe you want to just try a couple of things here and there to switch that up, or add another instrument here and there that kind of adds a counter melody to it, just to kind of keep things interesting. You don't want to be looping things too often and too much. Let me see what you did at the end.
It's better than being locked. Don't get it twisted like licorice. Devil sidekicks, bitch.
Yeah, and just so you know, for this industry, you're going to want to have just a crash hit output. You don't want to have any sort of like a long experimental thing like this going on at the end. You want to clean up the language. Can't use any bad words. You got to have a clean version of these songs if you want to shop them to libraries, because they're going to say, cool track, now give us the clean version, right? So just do that beforehand, though. You don't have to go back and clean things out or whatever. And I honestly don't think you should just like blank out the bad words or reverse them like a lot of people do. Like, literally, you need to write other words in place of the bad words, of the cuss words, and re-record that and put those in its place. So, you know, you don't want to have censored versions of your tracks getting placed. They don't want that. That's not something they're interested in. And if they want vocals going through the whole thing. They don't want to just have like these cutouts wherever, you know, whenever you use a cuss word or something like that. So anyways, Emily, all right, open arms. Let's see what you got. Very moving music, Emily. The samples, though, right off the bat, I can tell you that's what's getting in your way right now. Piano and the strings, both of them need to go. I think you need to invest in some better libraries, some better sounds. These sound very much like, you know, a karaoke preset, you know, sort of a sound. And that's going to sort of exclude you from a lot of libraries. Some libraries might want this kind of a thing, but if you want to get big placements in quality TV shows and quality high-rated programs, you got to have music that has that sort of sound, that polished sound. And these samples, it's not your music skills, it's not your producing skills. Obviously, you have a really great sense of melody and sound, but these samples just aren't cutting it for you. So I would recommend starting today. Don't use these anymore. Go try some new stuff. I recommend Contact 5. If you just go do a search, Contact 5 libraries, you will find, I think they have hundreds of them. I mean, pianos, strings, drums, synths, sound effects, pads. There are so many different ones. Yeah, not all of them are going to be cheap. Some of them might be more than others. Or, you know, you can always just invest in something like Logic Pro 10. I don't know if you're a Mac person, but Logic Pro 10 is $200 these days, and it comes with a lot of great built-in plugins and sounds and libraries and all that kind of stuff. So there are reasonable solutions these days. And there's even some of these programs out there that are letting you license their software month to month. You can pay like, I think, $20 a month and you can get access to all their libraries. Of course, you got to keep paying. If you don't, then you don't get access to it. But, you know, something like that actually might help you out too. But like getting some better samples, you got to use the right proper tools to make sure that your tracks really sing as big as they can. A little bit of timing issues. You got to make sure that if you're not doing this yet, Emily, make sure that you quantize everything you're doing, okay? So you write this cool piano line. You want to probably highlight the whole thing and quantize it, okay? If you're not familiar with quantizing, look it up on YouTube. Somebody will show you. You just type in quantize in whatever program you use. Logic, Pro Tools, Fruity Loops, doesn't matter. Did you tell me what you use? I don't think you did. No. So whatever you use, just type in how to quantize in that program. Now you can obviously control how tight that quantizing is. You can have it at 100%, meaning that it's like just right on the grid and it feels very robotic. You can loosen it up. You can do 90%, 80%. So it's got a little bit more of that human feel. So you got to decide what works. But now with this beeping sound and the strings and your piano, I'm starting to hear things kind of get out of time with each other. So you got to go and fix these basic things first. Then you can start to build up your production and start getting a little bit fancier with things. But you gotta, you know, solve these timing issues. In the syndicate, when people submit tracks and there's timing issues, it's typically the time where I just say, all right, I can't review anymore. You got to go back and finish basics. Like timing issues is number one, because if you have the best sounding track in the world, but there's just weird things happening timing wise and things are not lining up, it's going to get passed on no matter what, because it's just weird. It's just weird sounding for people. They're not going to be able to, like, you know, get into it. It's going to be too distracting. So it's one of those fundamental things. You got to build your house on a foundation. You can't get can't get too fancy if you built your house on sand, as they say. I think that was a Bible thing. As you build your house on sand, the whole thing just like crumbles and falls apart. So solid foundation means rhythm, right? Quantizing, getting things right on the grid. You got to do that for sure before you start getting more in depth with what you're doing here. All right. Coming down to it, guys. Maybe about, I don't know, what do we have? 10, 12 more, something like that. We're coming down to it. So Jawan, all right. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Inspire to your aspect of your music career. Right on, man. Let's see what you got. So, what the hell? Let's do the music video. Give somebody a show, right? You guys want a show, don't you?
Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. The pain passes, but the beauty remains. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more, so we can fear less. A small body of determined spirits, fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission, can alter the course of history. This is for the ones that call me inferior. Said I never ever be a part of the interior. Status in the
Now, just before we go on, I love this, man. This intro might be a little bit long for a library, but again, you've already released this, and I'm guessing you're probably selling this and pushing this and stuff. So if this is something that you're kind of pushing as an artist yourself, this might not be one that you want to pass off to a library. So again, my notes, remember, are always about TV film licensing. I'm not really telling you how to make a hit song or how to get on the radio or how to make a viral song on YouTube. That's not my game. That's not what I'm in right now, and that's not what I have any experience doing. So that's not even where I could really give you some valuable advice. But I can tell you, when it comes down to submitting to TV libraries, what they're looking for. So this is kind of a cool little, setting the stage here in this first 40 seconds, but we probably need to get we need to get to this verse much faster, maybe just like 8 bars, 16 bars, and let's get right into this thing.
Lower class under a superior. Today we on a new path to cause them hysteria. No more imprisonment, we demand justice. Sworn in the leadership, we demand substance. Out with corruption, in with the musket. Either you join in or we cause destruction. Pounce on reflex, bounce out rejects. Look them square in the eyes, you'll never see me sweat. Cause I'm a man first. When I ball a fist and swing it, then these hands hurt. I can be what I wanna be, see what I wanna see. Stand on my own too and seize what's in front of me. For now you kept our eyes shut, but from here on out, all my people rise up. Rise up. When they told me I would never be nothing. Rise up. When they look at me and only see color. Rise up.
Okay, so you've definitely got a great lyrical you got great lyrics here, man, and this is perfect for the TV film world because this theme of rise up can be used in a lot of different scenarios, right? A lot of different scenes, a lot of different shows use something that can deal with like, hey, it's time to rise up and achieve something. And it can be anything from somebody like, you know, whatever, getting out of poverty or getting out of, I don't know, whatever. They're trying to just better themselves and do something better with their lives. So this theme of rise up is definitely a great way to go. And I like that it's kind of generalized, that it's not too specific. Now, I'm guessing you had like a little bit of a political, you know, message with this, which is cool, but like you don't want to get too specific if you're going to go into the TV film world, right? You don't want to get too specific about a political agenda or a political message, because if that political message is no longer relevant in like 2 years, which is kind of what happens if you notice, like something that's really important to people this year, what happened to that next year? Like nobody really cares about it, and they move on to something else, and something else becomes the new thing. And so if you're still talking about in your song something that was relevant then, and I don't think necessarily you did that in this track, but this is just a word to the wise for all of us who do lyrics and stuff. You don't want to get too specific about what's happening in the current event. I like this idea that it's a rise up. This can be, you know, this could be a track that was relevant when, you know, in the 80s and the 90s and this decade and next decade. I mean, this is such a universal sort of a theme. And that's why I really like what's going on with your lyrics here, man. Music is great. You got a clean sound. Yeah, man. I mean, I haven't heard any bad words, any swear words, cuss words, nothing like that. So you're in the right spot for this. Obviously, this track is a little bit long for it. You probably want to cut it down to maybe 3 minutes if you can do that. But let's see what else is going on here. Okay, so there you go. I paused it too soon. So you said all the single mothers. Now that is only going to be relevant if they have a scene with a single mother. Do you know what I'm saying? Or they're talking about something that would include single mothers. So that would be one of those situations where you're talking about something very specific, and that might not be relevant to what they're doing in their scene. So rather than saying all the single mothers, you could say something like, to all out there struggling, to all you out there trying to make ends meet, to all you know what I'm saying? Like you can make it a little bit more general and vague so that it can apply to everybody, not just to these people, those people. So that's just what I would, you know, recommend as far as if you want to start creating some tracks for this industry. Just make sure that you do things that are a little bit more neutral, that anybody can latch onto it. It can apply to anybody, because that way you get the most amount of placements, man. But a really cool track. I like that. Thanks for giving us a cool little show there. All right. Gwesi Guppy. Gwesi? Sorry, guys. I'm trying.
They know we unidentified way up.
Back then they won't look at me like I'm your Riley. Making the narrow, they saw the switch like Nintendo. Now they're claiming to be my friend, working hard to pretend. I'd rather be alone than to chill with fake people. Like a Rolex in the bin, please don't waste my time. Don't you try to join me in the summertime, especially when you brought the rain in the first place. I'm cold like the window, when I fall you didn't embrace.
So vocals need a little bit of help, man. I hear some tuning issues, especially when those first two came in. I think you guys were kind of doing this sing rap thing, which is cool, but you really got to get a little bit more of that auto tune on there, because it was kind of falling out of pitch with the rest of the music. And especially this other vocal that comes in too, that one also is a little bit out. There is some timing issues. I'm hearing some of the lyrics getting rushed a little bit. You guys are a little bit ahead of the beat. And again, one of the easiest fixes for that, other than going back and re-recording them, just grab all your vocals in your session and nudge them a little bit. Get them a little bit behind the beat. Vocals that rest behind the beat always feel a little bit better than the vocals that are rushing ahead. I don't know why, but especially in hip hop, the more lazy and kind of laid back it is, the more cool it sounds. So that's an easy fix. You can just nudge that stuff over. But definitely we need to get some more either pitch on there, or we need to kind of re-record that stuff and get these a little bit tighter, because right now they're a little out of tune with each other and out of tune with the track. And so that's what's giving it a sort of a weird feeling.
To bend my back for y'all, I'm done playing limbo. I'm dropping dead weight from my life. Lipo, a big heart, they wanna use to get a head start. If you can't play the part, then please the part.
They know we unidentified, hey. The one you're looking up to. Yeah, we unidentified, hey.
In this part, you're not that far off, but there's still a little part where you're kind of drifting in and out of the key. So auto-tune those things, man. Auto-tune can be your best friend. You don't have to overuse it. It doesn't mean you have to start sounding like T-Pain, but you can clean up those little areas, and you got to learn how to use auto-tune a little bit better.
We probably talking down on you, cause they never gave a fuck about us.
Cuss words, man. Can't do that. So you're going to have to clean up that, re-record that, try to find something else.
Yeah, they never gave a fuck about.
On using razors, the face blindness is real. I've become so unreal. Can't recognize me since I've changed and now I'm tough as steel. So don't act shocked when I return the cold shoulder. You should love me.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, even though you might have a good lyrical like theme going on here, if the vocals are out of tune and their head, people aren't gonna like give your track a shot in this business. I'm just being real with you. They're just gonna say, you know, it's got the theme that we want, it's got the sound that we want, but the vocals are off and they're a little bit ahead, so we can't use this track. And that sucks, because it's like you got a great idea here, and you obviously put a lot of time into this, and because those two little tiny things weren't taken care of, you might not get the shot that you want in a placement. So again, this is one of those fundamentals things. Vocals, it's tricky, and there's a reason why I have not done a lot of vocal work in my career. I've done a few, and I've worked with some artists and some singers, but I haven't done a lot of hip-hop stuff. I normally do vocalists, and to find a really great vocalist that can sing on key and in time and show up when they're supposed to and be professional, it's very hard to find. There's not, and most producers who are watching this, you guys can probably attest that finding a really great vocalist is really hard. So when you find one, you hang on to them. But I've done a lot of work with a lot of vocalists, and it's a lot of work just to make sure that these vocals are super clean. And that's why I haven't done a lot of it. Most of the stuff that I do, I'm just doing instrumentals, because it's like, hey, I can completely rely on myself for that. Like, I don't have to rely on anybody else to get an instrumental track done. I make it, I produce it, I mix it, I master it, I send it off to my contacts, boom. Super easy, right? I like to keep my operations very clean and very small as much as possible. So anyways, just some vocal suggestions there. Infamous. So, all right, the track was Private. Let's see what this one is. So two things. Yes, it's a little bit dreamy and a little bit slow, man. And you've probably heard me say it many times. Mid-tempo, up-tempo. That's pretty much where you want to start. You don't want to go into these dreamy, slow ballad, spaced out sounds when you first get started. That's just not going to have a lot of placements for you. There's just not a lot of use for that stuff. Also, the samples here, I think you could do better. I think there could be some better sounding drums, better sounding synths, better sounding pretty much everything in this track. I'd probably go back to the drawing board in terms of what you're using and where you're getting your samples. And also listen to, go on YouTube right now and listen to, okay, what's the top 10, I don't know, hip hop, trap tracks, whatever on the radio. Listen to them and listen to their drum samples and their synths and what they're doing. You need to get your tracks and your samples and your synths to sound like those, okay? So if you don't have a way to go find new samples, use splice.com, $8 a month. I know you can afford $8. Everybody can afford $8, okay? And if you can't afford $8, you shouldn't be listening to this channel. You should be going and standing in line to get some assistance somewhere, okay? $8 is very affordable, and that should be plenty. 100 samples to get you started getting some better drums, better kicks, better snares, better hi-hats, even some synth presets if you need to get some presets as well. I will say this, you did appropriately name it, Cloud Nap. That's exactly what this is. But unfortunately, not a lot of use for this in the TV film world. Not a lot of people are saying, hey, I need something that makes me feel like I'm in a cloud going for a nap. there's just not a lot of those scenes, unfortunately. So I would say stick to more up-tempo, and especially with like hip hop, it's like, most of the time it's about partying, it's about aggression, it's sports, it's about comedy. It seems like it's about those four things typically, and that's where a lot of the hip hop trap stuff gets placed. And so if you can kind of focus on one of those four areas with your music, this kind of spaced out cloud, like slow stuff, it's just not a lot of need for that. I just don't see a lot of that on TV. And if you watch TV, you probably notice you don't hear this kind of music that often, or if ever on TV. And it's always a good thing I tell everybody to do is make sure that as you're getting into this business and you're composing tracks, go watch TV. I mean, it's the one time that a teacher will tell you your homework assignment is go watch TV. In fact, that's the first homework assignment of my master course of week 1 is go watch TV. Go listen to your kind of music that's getting placed on TV. Listen to what's working with it, what is different about it from your tracks, and really assess where you can improve upon it. I still do that. Even though I don't even have a TV, I have a Apple TV, and I do Netflix and HBO Go, I think I have, and whatever, I watch YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But I'm always listening to, okay, what are the new TV shows and what are being released and what kind of music's going out there and what's the trends and all that kind of stuff. Or I'll watch it online and just try to find out what's going on. But you got to stay current with this stuff, and you got to really be assessing yourself as far as what's working about my music and not what's not working so well about my music. Really important thing to do is kind of like listening to what's getting placements, because guess what? What's on TV is what's getting paid. So you need to sort of see that as your competition. All right, Peter Cole, here you go. Nope, you didn't send it too late. You got it on time. You watched every video of mine 2 times. Wow, cool, man. Glad that you're enjoying this. This is your first attempt at dramedy and urban hip hop. Okay, cool. You want to join the syndicate, but you want to get your tracks tighter and more competitive sounding. So you gotcha. Cool, man. I totally get that. But just so you know, the biggest benefit of joining the syndicate is actually getting your tracks on par with the professionals. I just had a really cool interview with one of our members. I'll be releasing it here probably this week in a couple of days. And he had told me that even his roommate had noticed that his tracks had really gotten better in the couple of months that he'd been a part of the program. So that's kind of the biggest thing about the syndicate. Yes, we have licensing opportunities, and yes, we do have homework assignments, and we have other things, but getting you guys constant feedback, putting you in a position where you can get further guidance on how to improve your tracks is really what the syndicate is for. So go for it. Do your thing by yourself, improve your tracks, go for it. Improve as much as you can. Obviously use this feedback you're going to get right now to do that. But just so you guys know, people are not sticking around just for the licensing opportunities. They're sticking around because it's helping their music and their improvement, their production quality improve. And that's what I always tell them. I'm like, hey, and I always say like, hey, I'll give you guys as many placements as I possibly can. I have as many opportunities as I possibly can pass to you guys. I will. And I've been pretty generous with a lot of the opportunities that I've had. There was it was a 10-second queue that I paid $1,000 to one of the members just to knock out a 10-second queue for me. So there are some pretty lucrative deals that I do hand out. But I tell them, like, if you're not going out also and creating your own relationships with libraries, you're not doing yourself any favor, because there's only so many gigs I can provide. There's only so many opportunities for you guys that can come through this group. And the primary purpose of those is to teach you guys how this industry works and kind of walk you through an actual licensing gig. If you make mistakes with me, it's not the end of the world, right? We're going to go through what mistakes were made, what didn't happen that we should have done. And so you don't make those mistakes with maybe libraries down the road. And that's kind of what the value of the group is to all the members, is a sort of like, it's a, I don't know how you describe that. It's like, it's not like practice, because there really are licensing gigs, but you're safe to make your mistakes in our group, right? You're safe to sort of try something out, give something a shot. If it doesn't work, we can talk about why it didn't work and what you can do moving forward. Libraries, if you send them something and you're trying something out, they're not going to take the time to go like, good try, but maybe you should try this, try that, try this, try that, unless they've already got a relationship with you. But if it's your first stab at them, they just either go, yeah, we love it, let's do it, or they go, no thanks, we're good. And that's all you're going to really get from them. But you get a lot more than that from the syndicate. So anyways, that's all I had to say about that. So Peter, you had the same issue that I had with hip hop for many, many years, and it's probably still an issue for me, is you're composing on the beat, right? Everything feels very square. It's dun, 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 dun. It's very like almost like a marching band in the way that you are putting this all on the grid and quantizing it. Hip hop is loose, right? Now, here's the thing with hip hop. If this is the first time of doing it, you got to make sure that things are a little bit looser than this, okay? Sometimes you might want to have your instruments, like your drums can maybe be right on the grid, but maybe your instruments, you want to push them a little behind the beat. So it's a little bit lazy. Things are just a little bit lazy, right? A little bit swung. And a lot of that you can do with changing your quantizing percentage. So sometimes your percentage is probably going to be default set to 100%. So if you quantize everything, it just throws it on the grid. Turn that down to 80%, see what that sounds like. Turn it to 90%. That way you're going to give a little bit of variation between your quantizing on your grid there. So it's just something that I also had a problem with when I was trying to compose hip hop, because I didn't grow up with hip hop. It wasn't like the rhythm wasn't in me. I was more of a rock guy. But even in rock, there's a little bit of this swing and a little bit of attitude and funk. And you got to make sure you do that with hip hop and not keep it right on the beat, or else it will lose that sort of authenticity, you know? And if it's going to be an authentic hip hop track for whatever, you know, you got a basketball thing here, but this is also could be in the sort of dramedy thing, because it's got these kind of funny staccato strings. It's got to feel authentic. Yeah, the strings feel a little rushed. I'm hearing that. I would probably go back to the drawing board with your drums. Those drums just don't feel like hip hop to me. I would probably try something else. Now, this is definitely feeling more probably like, yeah, sports, basketball, that kind of thing. So I think it needs a little bit more energy, though. This feels a little bit like kind of not high intensity as much as it could. Could be a big part of it could be your drums. Your drums are very like they don't have that knock, you know, like hip hop drums knock and they hit hard in the low end and in the mid register. And these drums you're using seem very much focused in the high spectrum, and so that's why they're not giving the impact possibly they could. So this one just needs a little bit more aggression all over the place. I think your strings, you can get a little more aggressive with them. Like we need to have those huge, impactful. If you listen to trap music, they use these really cool, impactful, huge horn stabs. Bam! You know, really, really loud, really intense. They have a lot of aggression to them. You can almost throw guitar distortion on them. Like they're so intense. But we need a little bit more testosterone, essentially, with this track. We need it to be a little bit more beefed up, especially if we want to get into the sports world. The sports world is all about energy and intensity, and this one I think a lot of it could be the drums and obviously the quantizing and stuff, but getting some more aggressive samples would definitely help you out as well. So hope that helps, man. All right, B-Pegs, you're an aspiring producer trying to get your music into various licensing opportunities. Below is a link to a 30-second slot you completed a couple weeks ago. Cool. P.S. Your videos are awesome. The one on getting good sounds from Splice tremendously helped improve my workflow. Cool, man. Like I said, third time I'm mentioning Splice. You guys should get on it. Now, here's the thing. This is interesting. You really got me with this one. This is really cool. I don't feel like it's structured properly though. So if this is like a cut down of maybe like a longer track that you did, I can see maybe that's why you did it this way. But if this is like a standalone track, like I think like I like that you started small and you kind of rose us up into this chorus part, but this chorus really needs to sing a little bit more. And it felt like when we came back down at the end here for this last 4 bar, it was just kind of a letdown. So if it's going to be a 30-second like alt mix, that's what you're doing here. Typically how you want to do it is, yeah, you can do your kind of slow fade in. And then when you get to this chorus, like let it sing for at least a good chunk of it. And most of your 30-second mix should be your chorus, right? So I would say at least 3/4 of this 30 seconds should be a loud banging chorus or something like that. And this one felt like it was like, it gave us a little bit of this chorus and then we went right back into this kind of subdued section and then ended in a kind of awkward way. So I would rather hear this chorus just sing along because that had a really cool vibe to it. But even that one, I think I want to hear like a ride cymbal. I want to hear some high strings or maybe a high choir. Or it needs to have a little bit more in the high register to really sing. I don't feel like we exploded enough from our earlier sample. I'm not a big fan of these bells. They sound a little bit cheap. I think you could probably do something better. Try a different bell sound. Maybe one that's a little bit more subdued because these sounds sound great. These EDM and like corporate plucks that you have going here are really great. When that comes in, it kind of gives it like a little bit of a 80s vibe or something like that, but it just doesn't sound like it works for this sound. But I like how you threw in this kind of alternative rock vibe with this, but I think you really need to beef up that chorus, get that super, super big, anthemic, just larger than life, because it's got potential to do that for sure. And you're right, you're absolutely right with putting that car in your picture, because that's definitely an advertising friendly track for sure. All right, Jason, that one was deleted, so okay. Thanks for sending me the new one. You sucked me in, man. I listened to the whole thing because I was like, this is different sounding. You really got a cool vibe here, man. Originality, you're at a 10 out of 10, man. This is a really cool sound. I don't hear this that often, so you definitely got that going on. I think mix-wise, you could get your track sounding a little bit bigger. It feels small. I want to hear more low end, more high end. I want to hear it a little bit slamming harder a little bit. But I like that you're adding all these different elements. You're switching things up. These kind of reverse things are really cool. But this has got promo written all over it. Like I could definitely see MTV using this kind of a thing for a promo, or a lot of networks actually using this thing for somebody to like, hey, make sure you tune in or whatever. It's just got this really cool, like you said, you got this like picture here. I think that's of New York, or is that Chicago? I think it's New York. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely has this big city feel there. So it's a really cool, really cool vibe here. But yeah, I think just getting your mix to just get a little bit louder, and I brighten up your EQs. That was kind of the biggest thing, is I want to hear a little bit more in the high end, and I want to hear it knock a little bit more in the low end. But not a lot of notes for this one, man. Just a really cool, interesting sound that you've developed here with these reverse sounds and these kind of stuttering things. So wherever you're getting your samples, awesome. Really, really cool. You're definitely setting yourself apart, man. All right. Amanda, yeah, I know you're in the syndicate. Cool. All right. Well, normally we get you guys in the syndicate, but you know, you follow the directions, so we'll give you a review here too. Now, if this is going to be like a minimal one, I can see where you're going with it, but it's way too subdued and mellow right off the bat. Like, I can barely hear this, actually. It sounds like the whole mix had a frequency cut in the high range. So we want to make sure we can hear everything. So I think you just kind of started this off a little bit too subdued. So we need to get a little bit more breath coming in through this, a little bit more high end. The whole track's like this. So you might want to take a look at it. It sounds like, because your drums have a little bit of the high end frequencies in it, but your piano, your Rhodes piano, whatever you're using here, sounds very subdued. It's probably too subdued for something like this. So we need to let a little bit more of that come through, because now it really feels like it's been altered, or this is like an edited version of the track or something. But I want to hear like the full version that has all the frequencies. It's a good transition though. I like how you rose it up and then you gave us this little crash there. But again, it just, everything feels like there's a filter on it. So I don't know, maybe on your master bus you have some sort of a setting that's doing this. So you've got all the elements here and you're kind of changing things up and trying things new, but it's like the drums are pretty loud and then all the rest of the music is in like a little box down here, you know, and it's just like doing its thing down here while the drums are pounding away. So we need to bring these next to the drums. Like, they need to be in the same room with the drums. And so I'm not sure why it all sounds very subdued. So you definitely need to take a look at your settings again, because it needs a lot more of that high end mix. But as far as like maybe like a background minimal cue or something like that, yeah, I could see that working. But it needs a lot more of the presence. It's just too subdued right now. So there you go. All right, Nonchalant. Your name is Quill. Big fan of the YouTube channel. Right on. You're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying the knowledge. And here it is. Cool. Let's see what you got.
Drop it.
So here's what I'm noticing. This second part that just came in is fire. It's dope. I still think you can update the samples. I'm not a big fan of your drums. I mean, that low growl thing, I like it. It's cool. But like the bells and all that kind of stuff, it feels like these samples have all been done before. Like, I've heard these samples millions of times in other tracks. So if you want to separate yourself and differentiate yourself a little bit more as a producer, try getting some more interesting original samples and plugins that you don't really hear that much, and try something else. This first part was really confusing. I wasn't sure what was going on with this part, because this didn't really like, when I was hearing this, it was almost like I just wasn't interested. And then when the second part came in, I was like, oh, this is awesome, right? Like, that second part hooked me. This first part kind of turned me off. So, you know, lesson learned for all of us, that if you have a part of your track in the beginning that's not really connected to the second part, it doesn't really seem like it fits, and it's not really dragging or pulling somebody into your song, it's likely your track will just get passed over. People will only give your track a couple of seconds listen, and if it doesn't grab them right away, they're kind of moving on to the next. So what I would have done is probably just cut out this whole first section, because it felt like the pitch was weird, or the key was weird. There's a lot of things going on there that just didn't sit right with me. But then the second part came in, boom, you got me.
Drop it.
See how this part comes in, and it's like that first part was like mean, angry, like, and serious, right? There was something real about that. This part comes in and it's like, I feel like we're, you know, we're skipping in a like in a field or something. Like, you know, it feels very lighthearted, and now we're just kind of having fun. So there's a schizophrenic sort of emotional thing going on with this track where we go from one extreme to another. This darkness that you had in that one part, keep with that, man. Like, there's something really, really cool about that. Really authentic about it. I think updating some of the samples for sure, but we don't want to bounce around too much with like, okay, we're going to go into a dark place. Now we're going into sort of a lighthearted skipping around feeling. It's too different. It's just too far apart, because most scenes that are going to use a track, they don't have darkness in 5 seconds, and then in these 5 seconds somebody's jumping around and having a good time, right? That's not typically how a TV show works. They're going to have a scene where it's just dark. The whole thing is just dark for a good, you know, 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever it is. Then there might be another scene where people are excuse me, jumping around and having a good time. So they'll use a different track for that scene. So hopefully that helps make sense why, and explains why you need to make sure that your tracks contain one emotional content. Kind of combining both of them now, and it's just not working for me, man. I think you got to stick with that darkness. That darkness sound was really, really cool. Stay in that lane, because the other one just feels like it's a little bit awkward. It didn't really feel to, it didn't like work together. It didn't seem like. All right, Adrian, thanks for following the directions. You got a direct link. Here we go. Now, this is really cool. It's got a little bit more of the sound design appeal to it, obviously. So some libraries will want this stuff. They will want things that are not so musical, but they're more just sounds. Like, you know, this kind of sounds like a lot of sound effects, industrial effects. And you're kind of throwing a lot of this cool stuff in it. It's rhythmic, obviously, and you have a cool rhythm to it. Now, you got to make sure, though, whoever you're you're submitting to, you find out what does their catalog have. Do they have stuff like this? Like, this is not a very, very common sound that gets licensed. So you got to make sure that if you're going to start submitting this kind of stuff to libraries, do they have this in their catalog, and what's the quality of the stuff that they already have? Do you think that you could be adding to their catalog in a significant way by providing high quality tracks to boost up their catalog? That's the kind of thing that I would just make sure that before you start submitting this kind of atonal, more sound design kind of music, make sure they want it. You know, you don't want to send this to some library that specializes in like pop and hip hop or something like that, because they're going to go, yeah, that's cool, but we don't really have anybody that needs this kind of a thing. So you got to be very selective with who you send this kind of music to if you want to get accepted. I think we can get to it a little bit faster. Like, the sounds are cool and I like what you're doing, but it feels like we're kind of stuck here for a little while, just longer than we need to. We could probably scoop out a little part of this and just push everything back and get to these strings a little bit faster. See, here's the thing, because I didn't know what was going on later in your track, if I just previewed this song and I was a supervisor, I'd hear all these sounds and noises and I would think, okay, it's kind of like an atonal sound design thing. It's not going to work for what we want. But if I was actually looking for something like this, so what I would do, instead of just only having your drums in the beginning here, give us a hint that there's music in this, right? Give us some of these cool vocals, maybe a solo vocal would be cool through there. Or, I don't know, maybe a little bit of string action or something. Give us a hint that this is not going to be just sounds, right? Because this is a lot, I think this is... that's 30 seconds necessarily of like not really any music, just a lot of sounds. And so that kind of gave the wrong impression about what this track was going to deliver later on. This is awesome. I like this, man. Wow, really cool ending, man. I think you still need a little bit of a kick at the end there, just boom, to also trail out with that ducka ducka ducka. The vocal that are repeating that same note in the high register, and I heard it a couple of times, it's a little too repetitive. So I like what you did here, where you just had the vocal singing the whole melody. Just let her sing that at the very end too, and not just always repeating that same note in the top, because that's a really, really beautiful melody there. And I hope, I'm assuming, you've cleared that sample wherever you got that, and you're actually cleared to use that. You definitely don't want to use samples that have not been cleared. You'll get in big trouble. So just make sure wherever you're getting your samples that you have that sort of end user license agreement that says absolutely you can use these. So just word to the wise. Universal Empire Group. All right, here you go.
Eres única, me gusta tu actitud, eres única, ninguna como tú, eres única, y yo solo te quiero pa' mí. Eres única, me gusta tu actitud, eres única, ninguna como tú, eres única, y yo solo te quiero pa' mí. Eres única, tienes lo que ninguna tiene, bendita eres entre todas las mujeres. Tú sí que estás a otros niveles, nunca me canso de ti, vaya forma de amar tienes. Me gustan los lunares que tiene tu cuerpo.
Man, I wish I paid attention in Spanish class, because it sounds cool, man. It's really great. It's like getting me in a good mood, and I wish I knew what you were talking about. But I love it. I think this sounds really, really cool. Unfortunately, the Spanish market is not something I have a lot of experience in. I do have a contact in Mexico City who works for Universal Music down there. And so he's a little bit more plugged into that world. And so I've had him on as a... he did an interview in the Syndicate. But that's not one that I released to my YouTube channel. But he gave us a lot of cool information about his work and what he does, and how he's basically always going out there and trying to find clients and how he's pitching to them and stuff. So, but obviously he can't say a lot because he has an employer, and so the employer says you kind of have non-disclosure agreements. You can't say too much. So he said as much as he possibly could, but obviously to stay safe, he didn't want to be in a public environment here on YouTube, so I'm not going to be releasing that on YouTube at all. But I think this sounds great, man. And I think there's a lot of Spanish TV out there. There's a lot, you got Univision, you got all these networks. I've had quite a few. It's so weird, even though I'm not in the Spanish market, I do get a lot of placements on Spanish TV. And I think I had created a series of sort of like Spanish sounding tracks, like upbeat tracks for what I thought was going to be the World Cup placements in 2010. I think that's when it was. Yeah, 2010. So I started creating all these cool I think that was when it was in Brazil, if I remember correctly. So I tried to create some more Latin sounding, placements that would get placed for Mexico in their broadcast of the World Cup. So it's not going to be necessarily Brazilian music. It could be Mexican style sounding music, because they're broadcasting the World Cup that's happening in Brazil to the people in Mexico. So that's essentially what was going on. I think I got that right. Maybe I got the years wrong. So anyways, forgive me if I've confused those things. But I can't wait for the next World Cup. I'm a big soccer fan, so I love the World Cup. It's always a lot of fun for me. But your track sounds great, man. The music is awesome. Your vocals are great. Hopefully you're saying good stuff. I don't know what you're saying, but the production just it sounds really good.
Me encanta la figura de tu cuerpo, aunque tú digas que no para mí es perfecto. Eres lo mejor que se ha creado en el universo. La oportunidad de ir más allá, recorreríamos la ciudad, a donde te prometí llevar.
Drums, maybe you could update. You know, those could be a little bit better. They feel a little bit like kind of, you know, fake and synthy and just kind of, you know, not that interesting. So maybe you could update those things though. But really clean sound, man. It's loud, it's present. Your vocals sound great. So whoever produced and mixed this, if this was you or you had somebody, keep doing it, man. Whatever you're doing is working. It's a really cool sound. All right, and last but not least, this is it, I believe. Yeah, and everything else after that was just me talking to other. Or is this the same one? I think it's the same one. Yes. Okay, so we just did this one. So, all right, guys. So that concludes the open reviews. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time, your effort, and your openness to allowing me to listen to your music, give you guys some feedback. I hope it helped. Again, this is the kind of stuff that I do for Syndicate members every single week. We do this all the time, and that's really what the Syndicate is about. So if you just want to come by and enjoy the free videos on YouTube and keep subscribing for that, enjoy, right? And please help me out. Pass these videos along, like it, share it. All that kind of stuff. The more other producers find out about this, the more full-time incomes that can be created in this industry. And I think some people have this belief about the world and about success that they're like, well, I don't want a whole bunch of people to find out about this because the more people that get into this business, the smaller the pie is for me. I don't think success is, at least in my point of view, I don't view success as a limited supply sort of situation. Or something that only certain people can have, and then when that many people get it, there's no room for you anymore. I've always made this argument that, like, if you think that an industry being maybe crowded is a reason not to get involved, then you might as well just stay in bed. Because everything you're going to do in life is going to have competition. Everything you want to try to possibly get involved in or start or accomplish will have hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people trying to do the exact same thing. The only thing you can do, you can't control what they do. You can't control how their success works. All you can do is get as great as you can possibly be at your craft, right? Work with your talents, work with your strengths, develop them, help your weaknesses, try to correct some of your weaknesses, or if not, work with somebody else that can help you, obviously correct those weaknesses. Do the work that you need to do to get as best as you possibly can, right? You should be competing against yourself. Like the way that I see it for myself, like I don't have any competition. Like there's nobody that I'm competing with. I might look up to people and say, hey, I want to make music like them or whatever, but I don't see myself as like, well, I want to get better placements than them and I want to have more income than them. That's not how my brain thinks at all. My brain is always like, what can I do to make myself better? How can I get better at everything that I'm doing, right? Composing music, making YouTube videos, your guys' review videos, Syndicate reviews. How can I get more effective with that? And so I'm always asking for feedback from you, feedback from my members, feedback from my libraries. Like I'm always wanting to learn and get better at it. Because remember, if you think you've arrived and you think you know everything and you think you know exactly how to succeed and you think you got all this stuff figured out, guess what? You've only got one place to go, and that is straight down. And you're going to be not progressing anymore. You're just going to be the sort of has-been that always talks about like, well, yeah, I used to have this thing that happened 10 years ago, and that was cool. Trust me, you don't want to be that guy. I've heard a lot of stories from people who are still bragging about the fact that they knew Boyz II Men in 1988 or whatever, and that's their big claim to fame. And it's 2017, and they're still talking about 1988. You don't want to be that guy in 2034 saying like, yeah, in 2017, I got that one placement and that was really cool. Come on now. Like you should never be hanging on to a past success. In fact, I think a really healthy thing to think about is every single day you've got to justify yourself. You've got to kind of reinvent yourself. You've got to, you can't hang your success. You can't hang your hat on some placements you had years ago. I'm proud of what I've placed. I'm proud of the income that I've created, but it's not what I'm hanging my success on. My success now rides on what I can do today, what I can do this month, what can I get accomplished this year? What kind of new opportunities can I provide for myself? What can I bring my members? How much can I educate you guys, right? So every single day, I'm waking up and competing against myself. There's nobody else that I'm competing with. I have sort of like tunnel vision. I'm just looking at my future, looking at what I can do for myself, and I'm not ever really comparing myself with them. That what can I do? How come they're this, that? The only reason why I'll ever do that is if I want to use them as inspiration or a resource for how to improve myself in some ways. And that's really it. But I'm not competing with them. I'm not trying to like get a piece of their success. I'm creating my own success. I'm creating my own reality with that. So hopefully that helps explain. And again, you guys, if you ever want to learn about the syndicate, you guys know how to find it. You can always go below this video. Underneath, I have that link. You can watch the little explainer video, so you can decide if you want to get started and what's going on and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. We're having a blast, and every single week we're finding new members that are jumping on board, and they're kind of seeing like within like 7 days, they're like, wow, like I'd heard about this group and I didn't really know what was going on. And right when they get in, they realize, oh, okay, I get it. Like I see why so many people are joining. And I can tell you guys, this is without a doubt, I have not had one person cancel because they're not happy with the group. I have not ever had that happen. I've had people cancel because financial situations, they can't afford it. Something comes up and they got to take a different path in life. And I always say, hey, no hard feelings at all. Thank you so much for being a part of this while you can. We're going to cancel you right away. No problem. And you're always welcome back. Like I haven't had any hard feelings with anybody who's ever canceled. I get it. Like, you know, life throws stuff at you when you're not expecting it. Welcome to life, right? So, but I've never had one person say, Jesse, like you said this course was going to do something for me. It didn't do anything. I don't want anything to do with this or this group, right? I've never had one person. I always ask them, I'm like, hey, I'm going to cancel you, but if there's something I can do to make this better or you weren't happy with, always let me know. I mean, unless people are being super shy and they don't want to make me mad or something, I don't know what their angle could be, but I believe them. They say, no, it was great. It was awesome. This is actually really helpful. And I'll probably come back in a couple months when I can afford it or whatever. So just so you guys know, my rate of like, you know, customer service success or people being happy with what I'm offering, I'm at 100% right now. Nobody's canceling because they're not happy with it. So take that for what it's worth. All right, guys. That concludes it today. Now, moving forward, I have obviously closed this opportunity. I'm not going to be offering this for maybe a little while. So what you need to do if you want to get your tracks reviewed in the future, okay, make sure you subscribe. Click that subscribe button right now if you're not subscribed, okay? Click the like button. Make sure you share this stuff. Make sure other people can find it. Even if you don't share it, if you just click like, more people will find this kind of stuff online and they'll realize, wow, there's actually a whole industry here that they can maybe benefit from. So pay this stuff forward. You guys discovered me, which is great, and you're learning a lot, but make sure you pay it on to the next generation of people can kind of find this and use all this kind of stuff. But just stay tuned, okay? So when I do have another opportunity where I can carve out a little bit more time and give you guys some feedback, I will absolutely let you guys know. And likely what will happen next time is I will do a live broadcast, and you have to tune in live and send me your track during that live broadcast for me to review it, okay? This was a lot, 100 plus tracks. It took a big chunk of my schedule out, and I might do this again. I'm not saying I'll never do this again, but I do probably need to sort of condense this a little bit more, and I want to reward those of you that can make the live broadcast, that can really participate in these live shows, and that's probably how I'm going to do it moving forward. So make sure you subscribe. If you're not on my email list, you can go to musicmakescash.com, get on the email list. I always send out an email when I'm about to go live, so you guys can always catch that as well, just in case you don't see it on your YouTube notifications or whatever. So thank you guys so much. Enjoy your day, and I'm out of here. I got to go do a couple of things. In fact, I got to go compose some tracks for an opportunity that I just got landed on my plate last night. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So hope you guys have a good one.